Gotta love that walk-up music. I'm definitely ready for baseball season here. So thanks for having me. Appreciate the invitation, the ability to speak here in front of you. I'm Patrick Johnson. I'm the president of Sydnexis. And at Sydnexis, we're developing SID101, which is a low-dose atropine product to treat the progression of myopia in kids. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about myopia. I think this audience probably understands it very well. But I want to spend most of my time today talking about the modality of treatment, which is the utilization of atropine as a pharmaceutical. But briefly, I think people in this room recognize myopia starts very early. Myopia co-segregates with a lot of very significant ocular diseases, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And the idea is to identify myopia early and treat it early, because once kids have progressed, the reversal of myopia is not something people are working on yet. I think there was a really major kind of paradigm shift in myopia about 10 to 20 years ago when these major studies were published down at the bottom here that correlated myopia progression and increasing myopia with some very significant ocular diseases, specifically retinal detachment and myopic maculopathies. You can see here that these risks increase dramatically as myopia increases. And I think it's been interesting to watch. There's been a lot of physician-initiated studies that have occurred in the last 15 years. And the paradigm right now is identify and intervene. And you can see here there's a paper by Mark Bullimore and Noel Brennan which contemplates, look, you don't have to catch it immediately, but just as soon as you catch it, start treating these patients so that you can minimize that progression, because every diopter really does matter. There's been a lot of physician-initiated studies that have been conducted over the years. In 2017, the American Academy of Ophthalmology put together a meta-analysis of 17 of those papers that have used low-dose atropine to intervene in the progression of myopia. And their conclusions are very simple in a meta-analysis like this. Level 1 evidence supports the use of atropine to treat myopic progression. So that's it's a strong endorsement for atropine. Optometric and ophthalmic societies together, along with the pediatric societies, have formed a global myopia task force in 2019. And this task force, the goal is really to identify, intervene, educate, and reduce this global burden of myopia. And the task force at the bottom there, you can see they highlighted low-dose atropine as the most reasonable approach for myopia control. So not all atropine products are the same. It's very important to understand this. Atropine is a unique API. You can't just add it to water or an artificial tear and expect to get a drop that works. Atropine is extremely unstable. It's unstable in aqueous environments, and it's unstable at near physiologic pH. This poses a problem for drug development, obviously. The only way to stabilize atropine in aqueous formulations is to lower the pH. All companies that are currently developing atropine, the only strategy they have, they're all in aqueous formulations. All compounding pharmacies, the only strategy that they have is to use an aqueous environment and drop the pH. So at Sydnexis, we're developing SID101. We have a unique excipient. It's heavy water. It's very similar to water. It looks like water, tastes like water, smells like water. And it just hydrolyzes water more slowly. So we can keep the pH high, and we can stabilize atropine at near physiologic pH. On the left and right here are just two different graphs. The dark bar is aqueous formulation. The dotted bars below it are D2O-based formulation, SID101. And we have degradation on the y-axis, time on the x-axis. You can just see that a lot slower degradation at a couple of different conditions here in our formulation. So why does high pH matter? If you drop the pH with atropine, you charge the molecule. For every pH unit you drop atropine, you increase the number and the amount of charged atropine species by an order of magnitude. So if you drop it 2 pH units, it's 100-fold more charged atropine. The issue there is charged atropine molecules don't cross biologic membranes. That's kind of important when you're talking about bioavailability and drug delivery. It doesn't get across biologic membranes. Also, if you drop the pH, you increase tearing, put a tear on the eye. Low pH, more tearing than a higher pH product, washes the drug off quicker. And of course, we all know tolerability with kids is important. higher pH products are more well tolerated. Compounding, it's all we have right now. It's what's being used. It works. High pH products work, but if you go to Richdale et al., they published a very interesting paper where they surveyed a bunch of compounding pharmacies, asked them, what are you guys doing? And it turns out that 16 of 26 compounding pharmacies felt that a room temperature aqueous-based atropine solution was sufficient. And only 2 out of 26 of those groups actually adjusted the pH. That means over half of the compounded atropine is high pH and unstable. That's not a good outcome for our kids. In addition, the compounding pharmacies don't have the equipment to release test all their products. They typically make them in one-off bottles. They can't test every bottle that they make. That's just not part of how it works with compounding pharmacies. So once an FDA product is approved, it's going to be a better product, a high-quality product that's going to be less expensive because compounded products aren't reimbursed. So here's an important slide that I decided to throw in the last week. I don't normally present this, but it's Know Your Compounding Pharmacy. In the last couple weeks, there's been some news that really makes sure that I put a slide like this up. FDA-approved products have very rigorous quality control systems, very rigorous. They take years to develop, millions of dollars, and the FDA has to review them and approve your quality control systems. Preservatives are a common tool for companies to utilize to ensure the sterility of a product and you don't have contamination in these products. So what happens when you don't have a quality system or your quality system fails? Well, I think we've all heard of EzraCare, those topical ophthalmic drops that have been recalled. Well, the FDA found deadly bacteria in that drop. A topical ophthalmic drop has killed somebody because of an infection they got through their eye. 5 patients also reported permanent vision loss. Now, what EzraCare was doing is EzraCare has a multi-dose, non-preserved drop. You touch the drop to your eye, it's non-preserved. You get bacteria that goes into the bottle, and this is an extremely serious example of what can happen when compounding gets out of control. Importantly, if we go back to that Richdale et al. Article, they reported that 7 out of 26 compounding pharmacies are using multi-dose, unpreserved drops that they're distributing to kids. So know your compounding pharmacy. Ask them questions. It's very important. At Sydnexis, we're developing what we consider the premium low-dose atropine product for kids. We have a high pH, superior tolerability, very good atropine bioavailability. We're going to have a 3-year shelf life. We do have preservative in that drop. We're running the most robust clinical trial ever conducted, 852 patients. Our primary readouts in just over a year. So in summary, I think everyone understands myopia. It needs to be treated as a very significant blinding eye disease in kids. We need high-quality tools in order to intervene with myopia. Atropine is going to be one of them. Not all atropine drops are created equally. And be sure, if you use compounded atropine, to talk to your pharmacies about what they're doing, what's inside, do they have a preservative or not. All right, thank you very much.